So I'm all done working. I gotta get in my car that I let my brother drive the other day to go home, and I hear this noise. So as you may have guessed, the little car needs a distributor. Let's see if I got one. Before we get too far, let's see if I got one in the parts depot. This is my box of distributors. And right there on top, looks like what I need. Yes. If you have a 90s vintage Honda, it's very likely, if you haven't already replaced your distributor, you will need to replace your distributor because they go bad. I'm going to start by removing the cap. This particular style you have to be careful of because the coil, or the distributor cap, has a, I don't know what to call it, proboscis? I like that word. That goes down into the top of the coil. When you remove the distributor cap, it's possible that as you try to move it from one side to the other that you break this off. So it's a good idea to pull the wires out, and I will tell you right now what the firing order is. One, 3, 4, 2. That's the firing order. So if you need to put these back on, that's how they go. 1, 3, 4, 2. There's 3 8mm fasteners that hold it on around the outside. That red dust is what's left of the bushing, and that's what's making the noise. Yeah, it's ugly, I know. So if you pull your distributor cap off and you see a bunch of red dust like this, definitely replace it. I'm going to disconnect the electrical connections next. You just sort of pull back on these little tabs and pull it out. There we go. And holding the distributor on are 3 fasteners around the outside. They're all 12mm in size. Normally what I would do is mark the location of the distributor, but since this distributor is going away, marking it's really not going to do much good. You can get these 2 lower fasteners, normally with a socket. And the upper one, maybe with a wrench. Once you've got all the fasteners out, just wiggle it, pull it out. It's that simple. Starting to wonder if this one's going to work for me or not, because you can see they're slightly different. On this top area right there, you'll see a number, and this is the distributor number. The one that I have in here is a TB24U. This one here is a 18U. I'm having my doubts on whether or not this will work. I'm going to try it anyway because it's what I've got. Let's just see if we can fit it in there. It does fit, but the mounts don't line up. See, that one doesn't line up. This one doesn't line. Whoa, hey. This one doesn't line up. I can get the top one to line up, and it does go in. It is a similar style distributor. I suspect it's for maybe a Civic. Not sure. Let's try the electrical connector. Go. They look very similar. I mean, it does clip in, and the wires do look the same. It's pretty much just a question of, do I want to try this and waste my time? Alright. There's a few things that are different on the outside. But for the most part, I think this will work. Yeah, it's dead. If nothing else, I'll have it apart for the new one. I did this to one of these once and used some brake clean on my rag, because this cap's not that old. Had some brake clean on my rag and went to start the car, and I heard a loud bang. And I guess what happens when you take high voltage electricity and mix it with combustible gas, it explodes. So maybe you want to just not follow my example with that, and maybe just clean it up like that. I think you should be okay. Let's get most of it out of there. I don't know if this is non-ferrous material or not, but if you're cheap like me and broke, well, that's what you got to do. Now let's get this rotor off. I have a special Allen head wrench that I can use for this. Sneak in here, and these are actual Honda ignition parts, and I'd love to keep them. I do prefer Honda ignition parts over any other ignition parts. Next we got our ignition coil and our igniter that we need to take out. Let's start with the ignition coil. We got two screws that are the electrical leads. A good screwdriver is your friend here. If you end up stripping it out, use a small pair of vice grips to twist it off. Now this is the distributor lead coming out through, or the coil lead coming out through there. So this screw will have to come loose. This has a goofy distributor gasket that never came with new distributors either. But you need to move it up out of the way in order to get to the other two screws that hold the coil in, and there's no hope of that. The idea is try to get that out of the way so you can expose that other screw right down here. Not exactly excited about installing this distributor and only having one fastener hold it in, but you know what they say, a bird in the hand. This is simply just a try to save as much of this gasket material as possible. And for those of you that say I'm a hack for doing this, well, keep in mind this is my car, so I'm not hurting anybody but myself. Now, our coil is out. Set him aside. And they're starting to look a little naked in here. There's a little screw down inside here that looks like I'm going to have to switch over, because this wiring harness is going to have to get transferred over. Alright, this is your igniter. Underneath it is the heat sink. Believe it or not, this little metal heat sink costs more than the igniter. I know. It's, I guess, all about what you're made from. Anyway, these wires will go back to where they want to go, but just remember, black and yellow goes in the middle, and then this one is yellow that's on this side, and then this one on the end is a white black, and all the way down at the bottom is a blue. So just keep that in mind. Bottom blue. They both start with B. That's how I remember. Bottom blue. And these coming off the igniter are not only it's not only your primary ignition, but it's also a signal to the tachometer that comes off of here. So sometimes when an igniter goes bad, your tach will bounce all over the place. Just a little hint. Well, I'll almost take my harness out. I have to get these two screws on this particular style of distributor are what hold the igniter in. On different styles of screw on, or on the later models, the screws are on the inside there. Now I'll take the igniter assembly out. Once again, this right here is the igniter, and this is the heatsink. This heatsink costs more than the igniter, and when you go to buy these, make sure you buy it without the heatsink, because it's a heck of a lot less money, and all you got to do to get the heatsink off is remove these two screws. So if they sell you one and it's got this piece of metal on the back, it was probably really expensive. These aren't as expensive by themselves as these igniters. I've got a couple laying around here. I might sell them on eBay or something. I can take my little harness out now. I think that's all I'm going to need from this distributor to transfer over. I think. Start with bringing the harness back in. These are your sensors, by the way. This one down inside, down at the bottom, that's your crank sensor. It's got 4 little lobes to it, and this would be considered your cam sensor. That should have 16, I think. And it's got some resistance when you turn it because these are magnets. And every time these pass these sensors, it gives an indication of cam and crank position. So in the earlier model Hondas, there was, and here's also one way down at the bottom. You can maybe see, yeah, there you go. And the one way down at the bottom is like top dead center. So this distributor actually houses 3 different sensors. I hardly ever see any of those sensors go bad. Hardly ever in an original equipment distributor. I've seen them go bad in aftermarket distributors, but not in original equipment distributors. There's no moving parts. There's just a bunch of copper wire wrapped around an iron core. It's pretty much all they are. But those are the things that trigger the igniter, which in turn trigger the coil and fire it off. Fairly obvious where this one goes. It's on the end, and then the blue-yellow goes in the middle, and the white-blue goes on here, and then the solid blue goes in the bottom. Blue bottom, BB. The coil looks like it's going in. Whenever I'm installing something, I like to start all of my fasteners before I tighten everything down. That way I'm sure they all can go in. There have been instances where I've tried to tighten something down and I already tightened something else down, and because I tightened that something else down, the thing that I was trying to tighten wouldn't go in. So for me, I've just gotten into the habit of doing it this way. Of course you can do it any way you like, because, you know, it's your party. At least to me it's obvious where these go, but one wire is shorter than the other. You figure it out. Just a quick FYI, in ignition coils, the hot always gets power. The negative is what's switched, which turns the field on and off, which actually fires the coil. Let's see if we can get some more of this gasket back. Kind of the important part is right here. You'll note on this distributor that the hole for the rotor, on one side there's hardly anything there, and on the other side it's tapered, it's chamfered a little bit. You want to put the screw through the chamfered side. You won't really be able to put it through that side. So try to put it in a position to where you can get down in there to install said screw. These do have a little bit of Loctite on them. Be aware of that. So this little T-handle thing I've got right here works great for this. In fact, I bought this just so that I could do these rotors. And it is a, oh shoot, I don't even know what size it is anymore. Had it a while. I don't see any markings on it. Anyway, it's a T-handle like this. I wish I could tell you what size it was, but sorry. This is a shield. Put it in there. Don't leave it out. Clips in the sides there. Make sure everything moves freely. I noticed something else when I was moving the camera, that this thing doesn't have an O-ring on it. I've got one I believe will work. If you find oil inside the distributor needs to be replaced. Basically what that means is the bushing inside here has failed, and putting an O-ring on the outside is not going to do anything. So if you've got oil coming out of inside the distributor, you need to replace the distributor. There's no way around that. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and put this on while we're here. Aha! Here's the difference. See this right here? How there's a notch out of this cap here and there isn't here? That's the key difference. I bet though that I can get rid of that notch and make this like a universal distributor. Okay. The notch is now gone. Some of you may say, "Hey Eric the Car Guy, what'd you do?" Well, there was a notch there. There isn't anymore. You figure it out. Now my cap will go on. Okay. I'm actually going to wait and put the cap on until I've got it in the car. And quite frankly, that's so that I can move the rotor around, get my keyway to line up. When you're installing this, beware this keyway's on an offset. See how it's slightly more to the top than it is to the bottom? So really you should only be able to put this on one way. I say should because I've actually had cars come into this shop where they were installed incorrectly, and you could actually watch the distributor as the car was being turned over do this. And the reason why is because somebody was able to jam that in there and get it in upside down. Don't do that. Alright, before I install this, I'm going to dip my finger in here, get a little bit of oil, and put that on my new distributor O-ring, just to get it all ready to go. And kind of from the looks of it, looks like it might go in like this. Switch it around. Remember that rotor was like there. Okay. Like I said, there's only one place. Am I comfortable with only one fastener holding my distributor in? Not really. But if it saves me a couple $100, then yeah. Let's restore our electrical connections. This big one here is for the coil. This other one here is for the sensors and everything else. That's the exhaust.